Today we're dealing with quad mechs. As you can see from those couple pictures I posted in Picture Printer, they are mechs with 4 legs. However, they are a borderline comedic disaster from beginning to end, but a lot of people love them because they're just so inherently wrong. The more they violate the laws of nature, the cuter people think they are. So today is a video all about quad mechs, what they are, what they were attempting to do, and why they failed so resoundingly that they have never moved beyond gimmick or rare flight of fancy for some stupid social general with more money than sense. This video topic was chosen by the channel members, and I'll be honest, you guys fumbled the bag really hard. You had the Warhammer, the Bane, even the Hammer Hands, a whole bunch of options that were cooler or funnier or just better than this, but no, you decided to pick the meme option. Thanks, guys. Every content vote drives me further and further from the light of democracy.
We have brought this upon ourselves.
No, well, okay, yeah, to be fair, I did put it in there as an option, but I didn't expect people to pick it.
Something, the customer never knows what they actually want, or
something, the customer is always right in matters of taste. That's how the saying goes. That doesn't mean that they're not wrong about everything else, but they do know what they like. I'd also like to say, before we even get into it, this video is going to be unashamed quad mech slander. I hate these things a lot. They're goofy looking, dumb, stupid, no good mistakes that we would be better off with that. We don't need walking tanks, but if you like the tank with legs look, that's fine. You can like what you like. Iron Harvest and other settings did it infinitely better, but it's okay. Everybody's allowed to have at least a few wrong opinions before they deserve a clubbing. But with that, let's...
And by a few, I mean one.
Yeah, according to Steve, you get one wrong opinion, and then it's time for violence. The only problem is, I imagine, since you never communicate any of your opinions, Steve, nobody knows what the hell you think, so it's like walking on a minefield around you.
Exactly. We gotta keep everybody guessing.
Nobody ever knows what your game is. You might not even know what your game is. That's how you play. You keep everyone on your toes.
Yes.
But before we get into things, let's do some quick introductions. Generic greetings. I'm Sai. Welcome to Science and Sanity, channel dedicated to bringing my absolute hatred of these mechs to you, no matter how painful that act might be for me. And along for the ride and filling in as general illiterate content fodder and comedic relief is my co-host Steve. Introduce yourself, buddy.
Hello, I am Steve.
Simple and to the point. I think I can hear your controller clickety-clacking, by the way.
I have realized that I have Crisp has probably turned itself off again.
Stop playing Battlefield for 5 minutes, please. We need to do this thing.
No! I must clock into the 3rd job, sir.
Oh my god, he started his 3rd shift already. Christ. It's literally like 1 hour. I'm asking for 1 hour out of your week, Steve.
I don't turned on Crisp. We're good.
Okay, alright.
You should not be able to hear it anymore.
Thank you very much, sir. So let's start with how quad mechs came to be, because this story actually starts with a reasonable, well-designed mech, specifically the catapult.
That doesn't sound like a mech, sir. That sounds like a catapult.
Let me get you a picture of it, because I am aware on second thought that you do not remember literally anything about anything, so I'll get you an image so you can see
what are we talking about again?
This, in Picture Printer, this is the catapult, okay? It's not the big wooden torsion spring rock lobber, okay? It's a walkie steppy boy that's got big missile launchers on it. They called it the catapult because, naming conventions. It's meant to sit far away and throw things at people that will eventually kill them, so close enough to a catapult for government work. Originally, Hollis Industries, the corporation, won a contract from the Terran hegemony to supply it with a new heavy fire support platform. Hollis Industries bid their prototypes of the catapult, what you see there. A relatively small for its tonnage design that had 2 huge racks of missiles and a few medium self-defense weapons mounted in the torso. The catapult initially impressed the Star League, and they signed a 3-year contract to buy as many as Hollis Industries could produce. And dear God, did they produce. After a 3-year contract was up, they had produced enough of them to last almost 600 years with no production runs that came after of any significance.
So, rivaling production of the Purple Heart.
So, for Succession Wars, a clan invasion, the Word of Blake scuffle, and into the Ill Clan era, and the catapult is still around, mostly made of original frames produced back in the early 2500s. They flipped these things off the production line faster than McDonald's flips burgers, like holy hell. It's actually absurd. Unfortunately, Hollis Industries is like those one-hit wonder musicians that made one thing, absolutely blew up for like a year or two, then did something stupid because they think they're hot shit or the second coming of Michael Jackson or something, and then fell off hard. Because for some reason, Hollis Industries couldn't just ride the wave of good mech design and keep doing the conventional thing. No, they had to do something stupid. They had to make a mech with 4 legs. Because if 2 is good, clearly 4 is better.
Double it and give it to the next person.
8 legs for the next guy, 16, 32. Eventually, we're going to end up at the urban mech train again. That old-ass meme where it's just an urban mech with fucking 500 legs. Big centipede-looking... I mean, upper management may have been a little wrong in the head, though, if they looked at more than 2 legs and were like, yes, this is what everybody wants. Upper management, however, was absolutely incompetent, because the entire reason they pursued this was that despite one of the biggest military contracts of the millennium, Hollis Industries somehow managed to run out of money a few years later.
It's the cost of manufacturing these went up so much in that time, man. That's all it was. They had the locked-in price guarantee, and then...
Cost of manufacturing goes down as the number of units goes up per unit. That's what economies of scale do.
All the materials got more expensive.
You're talking about how?
Magic.
The hand wavium prices got too high. They couldn't afford to keep... Okay, regardless of how they did it, they managed to get to the edge of bankruptcy before they finally decided to try and do something to fix that. And they presented the Xanthos to military procurement. That is the first picture there in Picture Printer. The Xanthos was the first ever quad mech and brainchild of David Harrison, the man who is, for all intents and purposes, the Antichrist who invented the 4-legged menaces. He's also a great example of genius and insanity really being a matter of perspective than 2 different things. The Xanthos wasn't a finished design, not even ready for the prototype stage, and due to the cash-strapped nature of the company, David was working with substandard parts and older equipment. David even warned the Hollis executives that it was not ready for any actual trials, but Hollis persisted, desperate for money, and presented it to the Terran hegemony anyways, hoping for another massive contract. Do you think they got it?
$3, take it or leave it.
Nope. Procurement officers looked at it, looked at how bad it was, then turned around and walked out without saying a word. They got nothing. The Xanthos was plagued by technical and design problems that meant anybody interested, like the Terran hegemony or other great houses, just did not care for it at all as soon as they laid their eyes on it. Any interest died immediately upon seeing it. Worst of all was the fact that the designer of the quad mechs was to put it bluntly, a paper-pushing moron. He had no idea about what mech combat actually was and how the developing battlefield was calcifying into tried and tested tactics by this point.
No, we must reinvent it all. This mech... Am I the one out of touch? No. It's them who are wrong.
You have no idea how right you are, Steve. This man was like, I'm gonna reinvent the wheel, and then he just made a square, okay? That's the equivalent of what he did. His thought process on how these were supposed to function is incomprehensible, to put it lightly. To start with, the quad mechs weren't designed with any lateral movement for their weapons, or I should say the Xanthos wasn't. To simplify that, they cannot aim side to side, like, at all. Only directly forwards and up and down.
Time to turn the hull.
I have it written in my jot notes here as a little joke, like talk about the Swedish funnies, those triangle tanks that had to turn the entire hull. That's exactly what you had to do.
We're gonna go back even further, call it the Virginia.
Basically just a battering ram at that point. We can go even further back.
Oh shit, it's a trireme. another trireme reference in a side video. It has to be like the 4th one we've had.
I meant like an actual battering ram, not the ship, Steve. Like the ones that people push and only... Okay, whatever. Not important.
Don't care. I got my trireme reference in.
And they could donkey kick, like throw their rear legs backwards trying to hit you, but if you were standing more than like 20 feet behind it, it's just not going to hit you, so you're fine. The idea that meleeing backwards would save it is... absolutely ridiculous.
And everything is a close range engagement now. There's no way that can be more than 10 feet away from me and engage me.
Oh, dude, it's great. When we get to the strategy of how he thought they were going to be employed, oh my god, it's insane. He was insane. He didn't understand anything.
Is this TOG 2 debuting in 1943 levels?
Yes!
Oh my god.
Yes! So I had a little segment here talking about like tabletop and stuff. I'm just gonna skip it because it was 2 paragraphs. The absolute chud. Okay, this brilliant engineering
Rip the tabletop
moron.
enjoyers, man.
Okay, like the guy who designed the Xanthos, he thought that his 100-ton quad mech, basically like the biggest weight category of a mech you can make, he thought that this thing would be best employed in the dozens or hundreds lined up across a battlefield and lumbering slowly forwards to crush the enemy with superior firepower and armor.
He had just watched Star Wars. Leave him alone. He just watched Star Wars.
Dude, the AT-AT jokes are coming
He just
later.
watched the Battle of Hoth.
The AT-AT jokes are coming later, Steve. Okay, we'll get there when we get there.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. This is more like the I don't even know what the fucking Republic one was. ATST.
ATTE,
I don't know.
Steve. Come on. Come on.
Look, man. The only thing I know about Star Wars is is that the Clone Wars was a good TV show.
Did you watch it?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing.
And you
recently,
remember nothing other than it was good.
I don't remember the fucking.
Your brain is a black hole.
Hey, I watched Rebels too, alright? And that reminded me why I didn't like Rebels.
Oh my god. Okay, so back on track. I can't even dress up how this man looked at the battle strategy here. He basically looked at Napoleonic lines of battle and went, that shall be my masterpiece. This is how my new stunning revolutionary class of battle mechs will fight. Blanketing the horizon from one side of the planet to the other and marching forward so that they can never be flanked. They can never get, like, routed.
We're gonna land them all on one pole. And they're gonna just sing throughout it.
It's the rumbling from Attack on Titan, dude. It's so stupid. I cannot understand. So ignoring things like how assault class mechs are really, really expensive and would never be bought in that number, and sure as shit would never be fielded like that, ignoring the fact that hundreds of assault mechs in one place would absolutely get nuked immediately, ignoring the fact that an assault mech factory was also probably going to get nuked.
Deploys 100 of these to a planet to encircle it. Planet no longer exists.
Like, this guy was insane. He was a brilliant mech engineer, and he contributed, like, the core of several designs that would go on to shape warfare across the inner sphere for hundreds of years to come. But for some reason, when it came to building any mech that had more than 2 legs, his brain just shut off. It's incomprehensible. It's just incomprehensible. And I'm not going to waste any more time trying to comprehend it, lest I myself go mad, like trying to understand Cthulhu. He's building a weapon that had no place in BattleTech for a variety of very good reasons. But, of course, because BattleTech is just like real life, some people are just stupid, because the Capellan Confederation ended up showing interest anyways.
It would be the fucking Capellans.
Yeah, and say it with me now, everybody. Not everything stupid is Capellan, but everything Capellan is stupid. In the early trials, working with the few mechs that they could get their hands on, they were very unimpressive, but desperate for any material they could get their hands on, because, again, the Capellans are notoriously underpowered when it comes to the economy and industry side of things. But like I was saying, desperate for any material they could get, they ended up being sold on this semi-imaginary pitch of a revolutionary new fire support platform. So the Capellans placed an order, and then canceled it almost immediately when Hollis Industries and David could not sort out any of the technical problems and production issues. But even as, like, the fundamental concept of it, the Xanthos was not a very well-designed mech. It had an AC-20, one of the biggest guns you could get. It also had a particle cannon, long-range hard-hitting energy weapon. It had an SRM-6, a bunch of medium lasers, had a couple anti-pigeon lasers on there, because, I don't know, why not? Long story short, it was the kitchen sink doctrine, a weapon for anything and everything on a weapons platform that now had no ideal engagement distance or optimal combat environment. It was a sniper with one long-range weapon, a brawler that couldn't turn, and a fire support platform that specialized in hitting big, unmoving targets like the ground, I guess.
A brawler that you park at the end of the street and anything that comes in front of it is worthless. You just gotta put it all on an intersection, you gotta have 4 of them, and just have one facing each way, you're good.
It's like you're playing Bomberman now. You can only fight in straight cardinal directions.
The world is not 3D. There's only 4 directions they can come from. This is not Battle 360. Shout out the old History Channel show.
Oh, dude, I love those shows. It was like Battle 360, I think Patton 360. Was there a
Patent
third one?
360, and then there was dogfighters or dogfights.
I don't think I ever saw the dogfight one, but I think the original one was mostly about the Pacific and about like aircraft carriers.
Battle
I think
360, it's just about Enterprise. Battle 360 is fully on YouTube. I think Patent 360 is as well.
Oh,
Most of the dogfight
shit!
episodes.
Really? Oh my God! Interrupt the
I've
video
gone back
right
and watched
now.
it several times.
If you have a link, we're interrupting the video right now. Throw that link somewhere, and then I'm gonna add it like into the video description because I love those things. I got the original discs for them, like sitting on the movie wall somewhere. So getting back on track, the worst part about the Xanthos was arguably the four legs themselves because of a fundamental problem with the design. It was incredibly unstable, meaning that despite being able to move at like 55 kph, if it got close to that speed, it risked falling or stumbling while being way too unruly to aim properly. So the first foray into four-legged mechs was an abysmal failure, but Hollis and David truly bought into the gambler's fallacy because they couldn't quit. They were just one more pull of the lever from genius. Ignore the 500 loss streak so far. Surely the house couldn't win for a 501st time.
Insert the guy mining image here.
I was thinking more of the let's go gambling thing.
That works too.
So go big or go home, and boy did they with their next attempt at the quad mech, the Scorpion.
The main gun in the middle, John?
Yup, the giant gun that goes right down the center, okay? So anyone who knows this mech just felt a shudder of dread tickle up their spine, because this is... Right at the beginning, I mentioned that the universe and like the fandom and stuff is desperately trying to convince me that these things aren't garbage. And this is kind of where that comes from because I think the wiki is lying to me. Unironically, I think the wiki and the TROs and the community is just straight up fucking lying to me. I refuse to accept another reality because in one sentence, it's talked about like it is a piece of junk that shit on the carpet, ruined its pilot's life, and then bit through a wire and killed itself before burning your house down. Like, truly, the pet from hell. Then in the very next sentence, everyone's like, yeah, but it was pretty good though. Like...
Gaslighting.
Are you people drunk? Was all the information about this written by David Harrison? Is this an in-universe sales pitch from Hollis Industries? How did we get here? Why are so many people... Specifically, it's the Scorpion. Why are people defending this? Why is anything defending this? It's like one of the most objectively garbage mechs that's ever been built. Even an in-universe justification of why mech warriors didn't like piloting it was... No, it just looks weird. Yeah, it's not stylish enough as a normal biped. Like, yeah, okay, sure, totally. That's the reason that people didn't like it. They were just biased against four-legged mechs. It wasn't because it was so unstable while it was moving that it heavily concussed its pilots and in some cases would knock them out. That's definitely not.
Hashtag biased.
Yeah, no, it was just because it looked fugly. Sure, we'll go with that. Probably need to give more information though. So it was designed as a fire support mech. It sucked at its job and was so unstable that if you push the speed above around half of its max, mech warriors routinely got concussions and in some cases, when they really hit their heads the wrong way, knocked themselves out inside the cockpit with how hard they were being thrown around. Originally, the Scorpion was intended to be a stable fire support platform. So you can see the incredible irony of this.
They're supposed to give it more legs if they wanted to be stable, man. Come on now. We gotta get 8 on there. Double it and give it to him, man.
To double it and give it to the next mech warrior to test.
I got a concussion. What did the next guy get? 2 concussions. Alright, what about the next guy?
I don't know, but I don't think he's getting out of the bed anytime soon. It was supposed to be something that you could hunker down behind low cover, go prone, and consistently lob high-powered shots at an enemy. The issue was, they still couldn't figure out the stability issues from the Xanthos. Biped mechs moved in a way that was relatively natural for the pilots. The up and down stepping motion was easy for pilots to adapt and work with because that's how a person walks. It's relatively easy to like get into the rhythm of a mech that's running or sprinting or walking or fighting or doing whatever. But quad mechs, especially the early ones, had this really weird half hobble, half sprint that looked incredibly unnatural and had a tendency to bounce the cockpit cockpit around in every direction at once. And this is something that was bad in the Xanthos, but because the Xanthos had a center-mounted cockpit, it negated a lot of that motion. If you notice the Scorpion, its cockpit is way off to the side, making these issues a dozen times worse. So at low speed, it wasn't too bad, just very uncomfortable, bumpy ride, but the faster you got, the more violent it got as well. So while the Scorpion could run at nearly 100 kilometers per hour, there weren't many pilots that would ever push it close to that, because that was begging for some kind of neck, spine, or head injury.
Or all of the above.
Yeah. In some of the worst cases, like I mentioned, pilots would just knock themselves out. So the Scorpion would hit like a rough patch of ground, pitch to the side, and do as much damage to the pilot as if they had suffered a catastrophic loss of control and fallen over from a regular biped mech. Its firepower was also pathetic for a fire support mech. On the surface, a PPC and an SRM-6 looks pretty decent. For the time period, it's alright and on par with most early biped mechs. The issue is that because of the internal sacrifices quad mechs need to, well, work, there wasn't adequate space in the Scorpion to make any of the weapons effective. The PPC was supported by barely enough heat sinks to keep it cool when firing, but the moment you start running around or firing the SRM as well, you are now overheating, which is a very, very bad thing. Later versions that, upgraded, in heavy quotations, the mech to an ERPPC, couldn't even fire it because the moment they did, they were overheating. If you alpha struck or were running around and doing other things at the same time, it was basically an instant death sentence because you'd put yourself in a shutdown range instantly. The SRM was also not immune to any of this tomfoolery. It was a functional death sentence for the pilot rather than any enemies it might be firing at. Because of the weird internals, the ammo storage bins and loading mechanisms had a nasty habit of cooking off to devastating effect. So if the highly exposed SRM housing or the surrounding area took hard enough hits, not even talking about what would happen if the armor got breached, kaboom. And hilariously enough, because of the location of the cockpit, this often meant the pilot was more likely to suffer irreparable damage than the mech was because of this. It was so bad that brave pilots would dump their ammo as fast as possible into enemies when they saw them, and more cautious pilots would dump their ammo instantly into the ground as soon as they deployed, or just beg the mech techs not to load any ammo at all before a mission. The worst part is that the Scorpion was filling the scoot and shoot fire support role with other massively superior and far more beloved mechs like the Griffin. And when a Griffin does everything the Scorpion can, but better, and is more versatile, why would you ever pick the mech that might also knock you out mid-battle or just explode randomly when it gets shot?
Because they hate themselves.
Well, I mean, back when we did a whole bunch of streams of MechWarrior 5, we did have, not you, me and a couple other people on the server, we did have the Scorpion as a punishment mech, and it was miserable to drive in a video game where you didn't actually have to do anything as if it was real and get thrown around the cockpit, so we used it as a punishment mech for people who had done something stupid or gotten themselves schwacked out of their normal combat mech. Yeah, I guess it's for people that hate themselves, or hate other Lance members that keep getting blown up. My absolute favorite part, by the way, just it's fucking perfect. Guess what Hollis and David decided to do to try to make the Scorpion a more attractive mech? Just take a guess. I guarantee you won't be able to figure it out. Just guess.
Well, I was gonna say they added more legs, but they obviously wouldn't do that. What did they do?
No, come on. Think of the most ridiculous thing you can come up with.
It would be a 16-leg mech on that chassis.
Okay. No. So
Did
around...
they make a bigger gun?
No. Around this time period, the development of land air mechs was also kicking off.
Alright.
They tried to make it fucking fly. They tried to turn it into a land air mech. Which, you know, if your mech is already overcomplicated and technically challenging to work on and has a massive problem with, like, knocking its pilots out, why not just go whole hog and merge it with the most technically challenging and complex invention ever made in the setting? Because what could possibly go wrong?
Nothing at all. It will all work out perfectly.
No! Everything went wrong. It failed spectacularly. It may have killed one of its test pilots. The Scorpion Lamb had a massive list of issues that were never fixed and ultimately led to the cancellation of the project. Some of these all-time hits include, but are not limited to, not being able to transform into air mode, resulting in the Scorpion getting stuck 50% transformed and 100% crippled on the ground. Not being able to generate enough lift to fly when it was set up in air mode, meaning it would just kludge into the dirt and lay there like a pancake, or the world's most common Kerbal Space Program design. Incredibly unstable controls and flight, meaning it was constantly throwing the pilot around just as if it was a regular Scorpion on the ground. And the piste de résistance. Even if it was flying, it didn't have the ability to land properly, so it could transform back to land mode, but had a nasty habit of smashing into the floor as it suddenly and violently lost all thrust and pinwheeled around. The final death knell of this thing was Hollis's attempt to prove that it could do literally anything that other land-air mechs had done to prove that the entire concept and project wasn't completely hopeless. How did they want to do this? Simple. They strapped to the back of a rocket shuttle that would bring it up to the edge of the atmosphere and then drop it like a sack of bricks. The Scorpion Lamb would then gracefully descend from on high, coming into land and transforming back to land air mode in a controlled landing pad where everything should have been fine, banking on the fact that it would have such a height advantage and have so much pre-existing energy that, those incredibly weak thrusters wouldn't really need to hold up much effort while it transformed back and landed. Once they dropped it, it made it about a quarter of the way down before the instability, i.e. the shaking and bucking of the bloody thing, got so bad that the test pilot, rightly fearing for his life, ejected and let the mech plummet some 30,000 feet to the ground. And you know what? In the vein of everything else that I've heard about quad mechs, I'm sure that this was a pretty good mech. It seems pretty decent to me. The funniest part about all of this to me is that Hollis Industries consistently made world beaters when they just stopped indulging the absolute moron that was David Harrison. Like, once they were like, okay, we're about to go out of business, we need to make some money, what do? David is like, another quad mech. And then the CEOs are finally so desperate, they're like, somebody, like, just put him in the janitor's closet for a while we have a meeting. Because they made stuff like the Battlemaster. They made stuff like the Highlander. Why didn't they just do more of that? Why wouldn't they just make more of those mechs? They clearly really know how to make mechs. So why don't they just fucking do that? It's infuriating. Okay.
Look, all right, it took a while for me to be able to locate it, but it got mentioned, so...
Okay. In the back of my head, I realized I had said the forbidden word, like... and I was just like... my fingers were crossed. I was like, please, for the love of God, let him be too stupid or tired to remember that that's a thing, and just move on as if nothing happened. But okay, fair is fair. Back on track. They clearly had a knack for building great mechs, as long as those mechs had two legs, but they just kept indulging David for some reason. So at this point, David had designed a 100-ton assault quad called the Xanthos that was an entire hardware store's worth of stuff. It failed, so he downsized and tried to make a more dedicated specialist mech that was like super fire support oriented. That failed too, and then he died, as people do. And quad mechs died with him for, I think, around 80 years before another company took a stab at making them again without his input. Their flagship mech being the Goliath, which is the second image in Picture Printer. That four-legged, chunky-looking tank on legs.
The AT-AT.
At the AT-AT. And I can't even with this fucking thing, man. Built like Jessica Rabbit, all leg. We have an AT-AT at home looking ass. Tank on legs, head ass design. So Brigadier Corporation was the company that decided to design and produce this thing. And it's important to note that while they didn't design the Scorpion, they were the company that I mentioned a while ago that was licensed to build the Xanthos during those initial runs that went nowhere. It's also important to note that Brigadier Corporation is not a mech company. They are a heavy shipbuilding company, producing both warships and heavy dropships, as well as the engines, reactors, thrusters, components, and weapons that they need to function. That's what they're specialized in.
Why this thing maneuvers like a boat?
No, okay, fucking look at it, Steve. Does that thing look like it maneuvers like a normal vehicle? Of course it maneuvers like a boat. But they were specialized in making ships and stuff, okay? And their mech arm, which, while it existed for quite a while, was entirely undeveloped and unprepared for combat chassis. The only thing their mech branch actually did before this was industrial machines and transports for rough terrain or hazardous environments. They would make like mechs and stuff designed for cutting down trees, harvesting lumber, mining, transporting, all of that kind of stuff, right? And a lot of those mechs didn't even use fusion engines because they didn't need all that extra power for weapons and stuff. They used regular old internal combustion engines and were very slow and very unwieldy. So this company, who only had experience making industrial mechs and a failed quad mech, were going to produce a new 80-ton assault mech, their first ever foray into mech design. What could go wrong?
Nothing. It all went swimmingly.
That has to be the tagline for quad mechs. Just quad mechs. What could go wrong? So I guess they came to the conclusion that good old David was right the first time around, and a big lumbering slab of metal was indeed the pinnacle of mech evolution. Now, the Goliath is an interesting design. As you can see, it's very tall and looks like a tank on legs. The Goliath is an 80-ton assault mech equipped with one particle cannon mounted up in the turret that you see there. It's got two LRM-10 banks that only shoot forward. They're those barrel-looking things strapped onto the side of the mech. And
which way's forward? The thing's built like a square.
Okay, it's the direction the cockpit's pointing, okay? That's forward. It also has two tiny little piddly machine guns for moral support, I guess, that can only fire forward. And I want you to look at this thing, Steve. Like, really look at it. It's literally BattleTech's AT-AT complete with Discount Dan Luke Skywalker. One of those anti-mech jetpack troopers just rocks up on this thing with a giant brick of C4 and it's fucked. It can't do anything. Arguably worse is because of the Goliath setup, it has a pathetic armament for an 80-ton mech. The Warhammer or Marauder boasts significantly more firepower while being lighter than the Goliath does. That fancy turret the particle cannon is mounted on was also a massive weakness, because if it took hits, even with armor left in universe, it had a nasty habit of being knocked out because it was mechanically really complex and very fragile. But it didn't even do you the decency to stop working. No, it just jammed in whatever direction it was facing, which leaves the Goliath in a hilarious but pathetic spot where if the turret gets stuck off bore, it has to choose to fire the particle cannon or the missiles. It can't fire both at one target in one turn anymore, because again, it has no twist angle, so it can only fire forward. Predictably, it was a massive commercial failure. And I'd also like to add, again, the wiki is drunk because apparently the Goliath didn't fail due to being underarmed, overly complex, and sporting critical weaknesses. No, it was because people were biased against quad mechs, and that bias didn't go away until the late 3060s. By the way, to put this in perspective, okay? For anyone wondering, and for you, the Goliath was designed in the 2650s and was only seen as somewhat usable or relevant in the 3060s. So, you know, the quad mechs were unfairly discriminated against for 500 years.
Man, they were just way ahead of their time. They were true visionaries of the era, but nobody could comprehend the vision.
No, I'm just going to go out on a limb here, but you know what? Seeing that the Goliath came into its own, in heavy quotations, during the 3140s reads a lot like someone saying, kind of in the vein that you said, like, oh, yeah, the Porsche Tiger, that hybrid electric, terrible tank. Just, you know, it was brilliant just before its time. If the Porsche Tiger had like a modern engine and a bank of 10 ATGMs on it, and it fired heat warheads and depleted uranium darts, and if it had composite armor and a working autoloader and didn't break down or catch fire every time they tried to climb up a hill, and all of that stuff, well, you know, then it would have been the best tank of the war. Like, yeah, no shit, genius. I'm sorry if you... I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. I'm sorry if you like these buckets of crap. I really am. I can see how someone could look at these and go, hey, yeah, that's a tank.
We're sorry that you like these things. There's obviously something wrong with you.
Yeah, but like, yeah, like I can see how you can look at a tank on legs and go like, that's cool. Like the Wotan and that, I don't remember the name of it, that other walking tank from, Iron Harvest and stuff, they look really cool. So I can see how the aesthetic would be appealing. But if it took 500 years alongside clan tech and all the advancements from the Jihad and Ilclan era to finally make your mech good, your mech was never good and is not good. It sucks ass. You just crammed every bit of overpowered crap into it until you could finally get it to start working. Ignoring that you could also do that with any other mech that didn't start from a position of suck and get double the effective results out of it. Also ignoring that the canonical, according to all the information I could find, good variant, like, oh, this is where the good stuff starts, of the Goliath, is still bad. Like, the 6M is the quote-unquote good one. That's the point in the timeline where everything beyond that is, like, supposedly desirable. It has a single Gauss rifle and an MML-7 in the turret, a multi-missile launcher. And mounted in the legs are a bunch of small and medium lasers that give it flexibility and extend its arcs of fire so it can't be flanked as easy if the turret gets knocked out. Cool. Amazing. Unfortunately, the main gimmick of quad mechs is being able to go prone, i.e. lay down and stand back up without making a skill check. So all those extra lasers in the legs are going to be obscured and unable to fire if you're behind cover. Or if we look at it like an in-lore situation, if the Goliath goes prone, its lasers are going to be pressed into the ground or aiming up into the sky, depending on whether you think it would go prone like a horse or lay down like this dumb cat. Quad mechs are incomprehensible to me because aside from just adding flavor to the setting, they are so apoplectically shit 90% of the time that you'd be better off using their space in the dropship for a tank. Hell, just strap a bunch of rockets to a technical or something like that. That would probably be better. I'm sure Toyota is still making those things in the 3050s. In fairness, despite the fact that I absolutely despise these four-legged monstrosities, I am going to throw you quad mech fans a bone. You do have a couple mechs that aren't entirely garbage. The Tarantula, the Revenant, I'll even surrender the Bargeist, fugly as it is, as a pretty decent vehicle. The Tarantula is a bigger, meaner version of the Spider, and by bigger and meaner, I mean faster and more fragile. Its entire purpose is to go fast as fuck and not stop for anything, including geography, because it's got a ton of improved jump jets that let it scale skyscrapers, cliffs, entire mountains really, in a few huge jumps. It also swings to the other extreme of the Spider. It has functionally no armor, and with its spindly design, any significant hit probably kills this thing outright. It also looks pretty cool, which is an incredible rarity for quad mechs overall. Then we've got the Revenant, and despite the fact that I said that this one was good, it is good, I'm still just gonna take it back from you. Quad mech it may be, but cheating it also is. The Revenant had a way outsized impact on the battlefield for its size and punched consistently way above its weight. It certainly didn't stop incoming forces determined to exterminate the Word of Blake, but as a last stand weapon of desperation, it was genuinely pretty scary. And it's cheating because no human is piloting it. The Revenant is an autonomous drone mech. Similar to the Caspar drone ships of the Star League era, the Revenant was alright on its own, but the more of them you got together, the more aggressive and competent they got as they shared information and networked together. So I'm taking the Revenant away from the quad mech evangelists because that's a goddamn AI and they're cheating. They're consistently shown to operate way beyond the level of human piloted equivalents, all the way from like warships and stuff down to drone mechs. That's why they're so rare in the setting and often met with extreme violence when deployed because they are such a threat. And as for the Bargeist, LB-20X, 2 ER large lasers, a pretty nice suite of weapons on a fast chassis with good armor. I surrender that the Bargeist stats-wise is pretty good, even despite the incredible weaknesses of not having a torso twist angle, although later iterations of it have very funny things like the improved heavy Gauss and then the big turret on the back for better firing angles. But let's be real, I mean, having this thing on your side isn't really a win when it looks like that. They gave it fucking toes. This thing looks so stupid. I cannot understand why people like it. It's not bad, but for like the 70-ton weight range, it's sure as shit no Warhammer. And you have to stare at just all of this every time you want to use it. Oh, man. Regardless, though, the entire history of quad mech designs is a bad idea, and whether through incompetence like their original creator, attachment to bad ideas because it's my bad idea, or a flight of fancy by some social general or crackpot company, Quads just keep on going. And also, to be frank, most of the quote-unquote good quads are from the Republic of the Sphere, and I really don't think anything they do should be taken seriously. They had the half-legged, half-wheeled battle armor. They were insane, and all their creations should be treated as merely a figment of a bad head wound taken by an unfortunate Scorpion pilot. The only big shakeup that quads ever really had was trolling the hell out of the clans, because there was a subset of quad mechs called quad VEEs, which I think I need to get you a picture of.
What the hell?
Okay, so we had the original quad mech designer.
We've gone from the air mechs to now just an actual tank.
Yeah, okay, look, all right. You had the original guy who was like, what if we made a mech, but then it had 4 legs, to the clans who were like, what if we made a tank, but it had 4 legs. It's a pile of stupid all the way down. To be honest, though, if there was anything that these mechs were going to accomplish, anything that they were going to revolutionize truly, it was going to be confusing and trolling the clanners. The whole idea behind the Quad V was essentially to abuse the overly honorable dueling trial by combat thing that the clans have going on. Like all of that really dumb, smooth brain stuff that they do to solve their problems. So when they're doing their trials of combat, like a trial of refusal, acquisition, whatever the fuck, right? The clans generally do something called bidding, where I'm going to throw a star, so 5 heavy mechs at you. And then your opponent is like, you know what? You're a bitch. I'm going to bid away one of my mechs, and I'll fight you with 4 mechs of equal tonnage, and I'm still going to beat your ass. The thing about quad Vs is, how the fuck do you tell if it's a tank or a mech? Because it can just switch between the two, right? So the entire strategy behind these was that a clanner would go into one of these trials and then be like, I'm going to bid a star of 5 tanks. And then the opponent would be like, okay, like 1 heavy mech, I guess. I'll win. And then they get into the actual battlefield, and all 5 of those tanks suddenly grow legs and start running at you, and that clanner alone is like, oh jeez, oh shit, oh fuck, oh no, what is happening? And he ends up losing, and then you win the trial by combat just because of this really stupid, asinine oversight. Even when the clanners are messing with it, the very best that quad mechs manage to accomplish is just rules lawyering a loophole into a cheap victory that people are like, grumble, this is bullshit, but fine, take your stupid win.
It's only gonna work like 4 or 5 times, and then it's gonna be they're gonna patch the
yeah, no, that's basically what happened. Quad Vs, just like quad mechs, never really took off. They're a very niche mech that's seen adoption by a couple different clans, mostly specifically so that they control other clans in combat trials and stuff, and people caught on relatively quickly to it, and you started seeing them demand to see the exact vehicles and stuff they were bidding before they placed their own bid. So even when they were trolling the clanners, and as stupid as clanners can be, they did wise up to the tricks of these things relatively quickly, and that advantage fell to the wayside relatively fast. Okay, so this is added in way after we first recorded this, because I felt like it would be a good add-on. There was a few like reshoots / re-records that also delayed the video by about 2 days. And I figured I would add this in, despite being a little sick, so you notice my voice is very off compared to normal. But something I wanted to add in is like how to fix quad mechs, or some changes that could make them significantly better. And my biggest problem with quads is that they add very, very little and demand so many sacrifices for what they do compared to regular bipeds. And I feel like they could be, maybe fixed was the wrong term, but at least improved greatly with a few tweaks. Because being able to lose a leg and not suffer anywhere near as bad as a biped would, while also being able to go prone and stand back up without a skill check, like these are nice little additions. Like, they're definitely quality of life changes, and being able to go down behind cover is, again, nice, but ultimately they sacrifice so much that I just don't see them as worth bringing compared to even legitimately a tank. So like the big idea that I think could really dramatically change how they work is just go full hog into the idea of the shuffle, just raw dog that new mechanic. Quad mechs can already shuffle to a tile not just in front of them, but forwards to the side as well without needing to actually rotate the hull. They do a sidestep. And while this is useful, it's still not super useful. It's another one of those, this is mildly nice kind of things. But a lot of the mechs like the Revenant or the Tarantula or the Scorpion already look like their legs are omnidirectional, so just go all in. The biggest change I would make is that quad mechs can now move in any direction without needing to spend movement points to turn at full speed as if it was forward. Quads only need to spend their movement points to rotate, to change their like forward facing if they want to fire in a different direction. That's the only thing they need to spend movement points for. Otherwise, if you want to just keep pointing in the same direction, you can crab scuttle off in any direction you want and even change direction without needing to spend movement points to turn. So quad mechs can move in weird zigzags, or they can just move straight sideways, or they could scuttle backwards and then to the side, and all kinds of stuff like that. My idea behind this is that it would put quad mechs into a way more heat efficient niche of kiting and repositioning that jump jets kind of already fill. Because jump jets allow you to reposition like anywhere within their jump range and then choose any facing you would like when you land at that location. But quad mechs would be able to almost do the same thing, but without needing to spend any of the heat that jump jets generate and without needing to sacrifice the weight or the internal space of taking jump jets. Granted, it's not as useful because you can't turn your facing for free, but it would mean that you are ridiculously maneuverable and can do things no other mech actually could without spending an absurd number of movement points. Like an Annihilator, if it was perched at the end of a street, is too big and too fat, so it would not be able to like back up, turn, get behind a building for cover if it's like about to get schwacked by a whole bunch of stuff. But a quad mech absolutely could. They could just scuttle back to the side and immediately be behind like full cover and nobody can shoot it now. And that seems like a way better way to fill that niche that they were originally going for, of like, this is a long range fire support mech that's hard to hit, it's hard to pin down, but it's got some severe weaknesses. Like, it's got no torso twist, it's got the extra legs, which means it's got way less internal space compared to arms for weapons and stuff. You might have to remove like even more crit slots from them in order to balance this a bit, but that's subject to change. Essentially, my entire thought process here is like, quads don't do anything well enough to justify taking them, so having omnidirectional movement similar to jump jets without the heat buildup and giving them some genuinely pretty ridiculous situational mobility would do a lot to make them stand out and to make people genuinely consider bringing them. All in all though, like, quad mechs need something. Anyways, that also brings us to the end of the video. Me and Steve did not record an outro before, so this is also pulling double duty for that. I am a little sick, so unfortunately it's not going to be overly grandiose, but if you made it this far in the video, you're clearly the target audience, so why not leave a like, subscribe, comment down below, do all of that good stuff. And you know, if you want to hang out, we've got a Discord, fellow turbo nerds abound. We do game nights pretty much every weekend. We occasionally have like creative writing or mech design competitions and stuff. And yeah, it's just a community of fellow turbo nerds shooting the shit and talking about science fiction. If you're already supporting the channel, to the channel members and stuff, a huge thanks to you guys. The arms dealers supplying all the stuff you saw in today's videos. Big thanks for all the quad mechs. I am going to smelt them down for spare parts because that's about all they're worth. To the food merchants, thanks for making sure starvation's an ever far away foe. You guys treated me to a lovely lunch of butter chicken curry and some halloumi cheese sticks. Thank you. And the coffee. Did I do it backwards? Oh, I did the outro backwards. It's supposed to be coffee, food, arms. Instead I did, okay, whatever, it doesn't matter. To the coffee vendors, thanks to you guys as well. You're helping me fight my never-ending war on sleep. I went to bed at 3 a.m. last night because I was coughing my lungs out. Hooray. And with that, we're pretty much done. I think there's probably going to be some shorter videos coming down the pipeline with just me, because the schedule's a little rough with real life and stuff recently, so whatever, it's not important. Anyways, it's the end of the video. Outros are hard. Bye-bye.